Big day. Big day, buddy. Welcome to another episode of Giuseppi Watches a Movie. Today we got another request from Florida. Apparently I'm big down there in the Sunshine State. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Anyways, I'm big down there. This one's from Homestead, Florida. It's from someone named Snapper. And I mean, in my head, I picture this person as being sort of, very rural and maybe not so clean, and has a penchant for hunting alligators in, the Everglades. But I may be wrong on that. I don't know. Anyways, Snapper has requested that I watch Nude on the Moon. I kid you not. This is a real request from someone else. They wanted me to watch Nude on the Moon. Now, at this point, I want to warn anyone who may be letting their kids watching this. First of all, why would you ever let your kids watch me? But if you are, this may go in a direction they may not want to hear. I'm going to try to be good, but I'll see. So, Nude on the Moon. It's a movie from like the early 60s, and I'm so confused. Like, is this supposed to be porn? I mean, it doesn't seem like it because there's children in it, that are running around on the moon. And in fact, the only person in the movie that's entirely nude is a kid. There's like one small child who's sitting in a pool. He's naked. Everyone else is just topless, but I guess topless on the moon doesn't sound as good as nude on the moon. I mean, which is faulty advertising, if you ask me. I don't know if you know this, but I'm basically poo-bearing it all the time. I never wear anything below the waist. But I wouldn't go around saying I'm nude. Bottomless, sure. But nude? No, I'm dressed very nice from the waist up. I don't want to be accused of something I'm not. But this is called Nude on the Moon. So the premise is these two guys... apparently, one guy's uncle dies and leaves him $3 million, so he decides to build a rocket to go to the moon. And when they get to the moon, well, actually, hold on. Before they get to the moon, I gotta go. The whole, the first half of the movie is just these two guys talking to each other. And, there's 10 minutes of just, look at us do science. And then there's another 5 minutes of, look at us driving. And that kind of stuff, all establishing stuff just to eat up time. There's also a woman. She's like the secretary, and she's in love with the young astronaut, but he's dedicated to science, and he can't focus on love. I wonder if that's going to come back to play a part later on. But anyways, so after all these establishing shots, over halfway through the movie, I think the guys finally get in their rocket and blast off into space. And this is the 60s, so you gotta imagine very, very low tech special effects. But my favorite part in the whole movie, you should watch it just for this one moment, and maybe we can capture it in the editing here. As the two guys are taking off and leaving the environment, they're both supposed to be, I guess, making faces like they're in pain, but they both look like they're having orgasms. Watch it and think of that, and you can't help it. They both look like they just were whoa, we just broke through the atmosphere. Was that good for you? It was good for me. That part was pretty good. Also, all the boobs in that part, that's what you watch this movie for. But anyways, so these guys land on the moon. They get off their spaceship in what is probably the worst Power Rangers outfits ever. Picture if the Power Rangers were made in the 60s, this is what they would look like. So they get off and they're walking around the moon, which they're like, holy crap, there's vegetation on the moon. How did we never see this from all of our telescopes? There's a pond over there. This looks just like California. Crazy. And then they finally like peek over a ridge and they see all these people just walking around topless. And here's the other thing. Like with a title like Nude on the Moon, I expected a titular line. I expected one of the guys to be like, oh my God, everyone is nude on the moon. But they don't even allude to it. They're never like, oh, look at her. So like if this is supposed to be porn, they never even mention the boobs. It's like, you know, I could understand it if they were like everyone was green or they weren't like humanoid or something like that. But these are all like redheads and blondes and brunettes. The only thing that makes them like different from humans is they all wear like a thing on their head that looks like antenna, but it's clearly like a hair band thing. But and they don't speak. That's convenient. They only speak through telepathy. And then like the rest of the movie is basically like just more footage. It's just like, hey, look over there. And then it's like a naked woman sleeping or a topless woman sleeping. And then it's like, oh, and check out this. And then it's like three topless women, throwing a gourd at each other or something like that. Like I hate to say it, but maybe I got desensitized to the book. I was bored. I don't, like I said, if this was supposed to be porn, then I feel kind of gross because of the kids that were in it. But if it wasn't meant to be porn, I'm like, what was the point of this? Like, let's make a movie and show people, tons of naked women or topless women, but let's not make it be sexy. I don't know. Like, I get making movies to like, nudism and supporting that and supporting the whole body positivity and, and regulate or making nudity regular. I get all that. I don't think that was the case in the 60s though. I feel like this was just like, hey, buddy, guess what? I got access to this place to shoot. I got a camera. I know like a dozen girls will take their tops off. And I got 2 Power Rangers outfits. Let's go make a movie, And that was it for like the last half hour. It's like, oh, look at these. Look at these. Oh, look over there. Look. The only conflict in the movie is that the younger astronaut falls in love with the queen, even though they can't speak to each other. And so right at the very end, they're like, and conflict. I'm not going home. I'm going to stay because I love her. I haven't spoken to her and, but her boobies are out. So I love her. So the woman's like, is this love? Is this what it feels? And then she like knocks him out so that the older astronaut can take him and they fly back home. And then he's all mad at him. He's like, oh, why did you do this? But then, oh, surprise, surprise. And spoiler alert, he sees the woman on Earth who, clever Wizard of Oz enough, was played by the same actress, I think, who played the Queen on the Moon. Also, speaking of Wizard of Oz, there was a scene right after they had their post liftoff orgasms where they're almost to the moon and then they both fall asleep. They're like, "Hey, don't fall asleep." Oh, I fell asleep. And the other guy's like, oh, so did I. And then, so are we supposed to believe that this whole thing was a dream sequence? Because then they like get back to Earth and they're like, oh no, I left my camera and I left all my sample. We have no proof that we were there. And then like the assistant who's in love with him walks in, and same actress. And then he looks at her, pictures her naked, and it's like, oh, you are here on Earth. So now he's like totally in love with this woman on Earth, basically because he's pretending she's someone else. That's romantic. Oh man, Snapper, I don't know if this was a movie that you watched at some point and were like, this is great, or if you just heard the title and was like, oh, I know a horny little puppet who might like this. But I don't know what to think of this. I mean, if this was porn in the 60s, I don't want to show anyone from the 60s porn now. Their heads might explode. And if this was what got people off in the 60s, I'm glad I wasn't in the 60s, man, because yikes, I almost fell asleep. I'm ashamed to say it. With all of those naked breasts, I almost fell asleep. Anyways, I made it through topless on the moon. So if you want to watch it, it's on YouTube. That's where I watched it because I wasn't paying for this. All right. That's it for Nude on the Moon. Send in those viewer requests from any place other than Florida. I mean, Florida, you're welcome too, but hopefully people in other states are watching this.
I'm mooning over you, my little moon.